You're scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m. Again, your eyes burn, but you keep going. One more email, one more task crossed off tomorrow's list, one more thing to prove you're capable. Everyone else is asleep. You should be too, but there's this feeling, isn't there? This low hum of anxiety that whispers, not yet, not enough, you haven't earned rest. You tell yourself it's just work ethic, ambition, drive. But here's what you don't say out loud. No matter what you accomplish, the finish line moves. No matter how much you do, it never feels like enough. Not the promotion, not the praise, not the perfect project or the grateful text or the moment someone says, I don't know how you do it all. You smile, you deflect, and inside you think, if they only knew how hard I'm trying just to feel okay. This isn't about working hard. This is about running from a feeling you can't name. We live in a culture that celebrates achievement. Dream bigger, work harder, be the best version of yourself, and you've bought in. You've built a life that looks good from the outside. Maybe you're successful, maybe you're admired, maybe people think you have it all together. But inside you feel like a fraud, like you're one mistake away from being exposed as insufficient, unworthy, not enough. Here's the thing most people won't tell you. This isn't a motivation problem. This isn't about setting better goals or building better habits or finding your why. This is a psychological wound, a survival pattern that got wired into your nervous system so young, so deep, that you can't remember a time when you felt any other way. And it's costing you everything. It's costing you sleep, peace, presence, joy. It's costing you the ability to celebrate your own wins, to rest without guilt, to exist without constantly performing. It's costing you relationships, because how can you truly connect with someone when you're convinced they'll leave the moment they see the real you? It's costing you yourself, the version of you that isn't hustling for approval, the version that just is. But no one stops to ask, where did this come from? Why would anyone torture themselves this way? What kind of logic makes a person believe that their worth depends on their output, their likability, their usefulness to others? This isn't just a habit, it's a survival pattern, and it started long before you knew what was happening. Let's talk about what happens to a child who learns that love is conditional. Maybe you grew up in a home where praise came only with achievement. A's on the report card meant affection, B's meant disappointment. Maybe your parent was depressed, overwhelmed, emotionally unavailable, and you learned that being easy, being good, being helpful was the only way to get their attention. Maybe there was chaos, addiction, violence, instability, and you became the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the child who didn't need anything because someone else always needed more. Or maybe it was subtler than that. Maybe your parents loved you, maybe they meant well, but somewhere along the way, you absorbed the message, your value is in what you do, not who you are. Here's what happens psychologically when a child internalizes this. They develop what psychologists call a contingent self-worth. Their sense of okayness becomes tied to external validation. Love, safety, belonging, none of it feels guaranteed. It all feels earned, and the nervous system adapts. It goes into a chronic state of hypervigilance, always scanning for signs of rejection, always calculating how to stay safe. In attachment theory, this creates what's called an anxious attachment style. The child learns, I am not inherently lovable, I must prove my worth, I must anticipate needs, I must never be too much or too little, I must perform to belong. And here's the devastating part, it works. You learn that striving makes you safer, achieving gets you noticed, being useful keeps you connected. Your brain stamps this in, effort equals safety, perfection equals love. You survived childhood by becoming enough, and now, decades later, you can't stop. How it shows up now. You're an adult now, you've built a life. Maybe you're objectively successful, good job, good relationship, good reputation. From the outside, you look like you're thriving, but inside, the engine is still running. The performance never stops. You might stay late at work, even when the project is done, tweaking, refining, making sure it's perfect before you send it. You might say yes to things you don't want to do, because saying no feels like letting people down, and letting people down feels like annihilation. You might replay conversations in your head for hours, analyzing what you said, what you should have said, whether you came across as competent or kind or worthy of respect. You might struggle to celebrate your own achievements, Someone congratulates you, and instead of feeling proud, you think about what you could have done better. You minimize your success. It wasn't that hard. Anyone could have done it. I just got lucky. Because accepting praise feels dangerous. It feels like setting yourself up for failure when you inevitably fall short next time. You might have this gnawing sense that you're always behind, that everyone else has it figured out and you're just faking it. Even in moments of rest, a weekend afternoon, a vacation, a quiet evening, there's this background hum of anxiety, this feeling that you should be doing something productive. That rest is only acceptable if you've earned it. And have you really done enough to deserve peace? You might notice that your relationships feel performative. You're helpful, generous, supportive. You're the friend people call in a crisis. You're the partner who plans the dates, the colleague who takes on extra work. But intimacy, true vulnerability, the kind where you let someone see you struggling, uncertain, imperfect, that feels impossible. Because if they see the real you, the one who's tired, who's doubting, who doesn't have all the answers, they might realize you're not enough, and they might leave. Here's the contradiction. You look successful, but you feel empty. You appear confident, but you're terrified. You give and give and give, but you never feel filled. Because the love you're chasing isn't out there. It's in here, and you learned a long time ago not to trust it. So why would anyone do this to themselves? Why would a smart, capable person run themselves into the ground chasing a feeling that never comes? Why would someone who knows intellectually that they're doing well still feel like a failure? Why can't you just stop? Here's the answer, and it's going to hurt. Because when you were young, your survival depended on it. Children are not equipped to understand that their parents' limitations aren't their fault. A child can't think, "My mom is dealing with her own trauma," or "My dad's criticism says more about him than me." A child's brain is wired for one thing: attachment, belonging, connection. Because in evolutionary terms, a child separated from their caregivers dies. So the nervous system will do anything, twist itself into any shape, suppress any need, perform any role to maintain that bond. If love came with conditions, you learned to meet those conditions. If safety required being perfect, you became perfect. If connection meant being useful, you became useful. Your child brain made a calculation: I can either change myself or lose everything. And you chose yourself, you chose survival. This is what trauma-informed therapists mean when they say, trauma isn't what happened to you. It's what you had to do to survive what happened to you. You didn't develop this pattern because you're weak or broken. You developed it because you're intelligent. Your nervous system was solving a problem. The problem was, how do I stay safe? How do I stay loved? And the solution was, be more, do more, never stop trying. What saved you then is what imprisons you now. That calculation you made as a child, the one that said I am only worthy if I am achieving, helping, performing, it's still running. Like a program in the background of your brain. You're an adult now. You have agency, resources, choices. But that part of you, the part that learned to equate your worth with your productivity, it's still a child, still terrified, still believing that if you stop running, something terrible will happen. And here's the tragedy: you can't logic your way out of this. You can't think your way into feeling enough. Because this pattern isn't stored in your rational brain. It's stored in your body, your nervous system, your implicit memory. It lives in the tightness in your chest when someone seems disappointed, in the way your stomach drops when you make a mistake, in the flood of shame that comes when you rest, when you say no, when you're anything less than extraordinary. This wound isn't intellectual, it's somatic, it's survival, and it won't heal by trying harder. Let's talk about what this looks like from the inside. There's a version of you that you show the world. Competent, capable, together, maybe warm, maybe funny, maybe the person everyone relies on. This version is highly functional. It gets things done. It meets expectations. It makes other people comfortable. But there's another version, the one you don't let anyone see. This version is exhausted. This version doesn't know how to stop. This version lies awake at night replaying every interaction, every decision, every moment where you might have fallen short. This version feels like an imposter, like you're always one step away from being found out, like the success you've built is fragile, and if you let your guard down for even a moment, it will all come crashing down. Psychologists call this the false self. It's a term from object relations theory, introduced by Donald Winnicott. The false self is the adaptive persona you create to meet external demands, to keep yourself safe in an environment where being your true self wasn't acceptable. And here's what's insidious. The false self can be highly successful. It can achieve, accomplish, win awards, earn praise, but it's not you, it's a performance. And underneath it, the true self, the part of you that just wants to be seen, to be held, to be told, you're enough exactly as you are, that part is buried, forgotten. Maybe you don't even know it's there anymore. You've been wearing the mask so long, you've forgotten it's a mask. And the cost of that, the cost is a life lived at a distance from yourself. You achieve things and feel nothing. You reach goals and immediately start chasing the next one. You're surrounded by people but feel utterly alone because nobody knows the real you. How could they? You don't even let yourself know the real you. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with this pattern. It's the loneliness of being seen but not known, of being admired but not loved, not for who you are, but for what you do, of having relationships that feel conditional, transactional, like you're always one failure away from abandonment. You tell yourself you're fine, you tell yourself everyone struggles, you tell yourself it could be worse, that you're being dramatic, that you should just be grateful for what you have. But late at night, when it's quiet, you feel it, the emptiness, the exhaustion, the question that whispers beneath everything else, when do I get to stop trying? Here's where it gets complicated, because this pattern doesn't just live in your behavior, it lives in the stories you tell yourself about who you are. You might tell yourself, I'm just a perfectionist, I have high standards. You might tell yourself, I'm a hard worker, I'm ambitious, I'm driven. You might tell yourself, I care about doing things right, is that so wrong? And no, it's not wrong. But here's the question, where's the line between healthy excellence and self-abandonment? Between wanting to do well and needing to be perfect to feel okay? Between ambition and the terror of being ordinary? Because if you're honest, really honest, this isn't about standards, it's about safety. You don't push yourself because you love the work. You push yourself because rest feels dangerous. You don't strive for excellence because it's fulfilling. You strive because falling short feels like death. You don't help others because it brings you joy. You help because being needed is the only way you know how to feel valuable. This is what psychologists call a trauma response, masquerading as a personality trait. And the most painful part, you've probably been praised for this your whole life. You're so responsible, you're so reliable, I don't know what we'd do without you. The very thing that's destroying you from the inside is the thing people love about you. So how do you let it go? How do you change when the pattern is what makes you acceptable? You can't, not yet, because first, you have to stop gaslighting yourself. You have to stop saying, it wasn't that bad. You have to stop comparing your pain to others and deciding yours doesn't count. You have to stop minimizing what you lived through, what you're still living through. Maybe your childhood wasn't abusive in the obvious ways. Maybe there was no yelling, no violence, no neglect. But did you feel safe being imperfect? Did you feel unconditionally loved? Did you believe, deep in your bones, that you mattered just because you existed? Or did you learn to earn it? There's a moment in healing that nobody warns you about. It's not the moment you understand what happened. It's not even the moment you decide to change. It's the moment you realize what you lost. You lost your childhood, not in the dramatic sense. Maybe you had birthday parties and family vacations and moments of genuine happiness. But you lost the experience of being a child who didn't have to try. A child who could make mistakes and still feel loved. A child who could rest, play, exist without performing. A child who believed, without question, that they were enough. You lost the version of yourself that didn't need to earn belonging. And here's what makes this grief so complicated. You can't mourn what you never consciously had. You can't miss what you don't remember. But your body remembers. Your nervous system remembers. That's why rest feels dangerous. That's why praise feels empty. That's why you can accomplish extraordinary things and still feel hollow inside. Because what you're chasing isn't achievement. It's the feeling you never got to have. I am enough, just as I am. Let yourself feel that for a moment. not the intellectual understanding of it, but the full weight of it. You have been running your entire life toward a finish line that doesn't exist. You have been trying to earn something that was supposed to be your birthright. You have been performing for love that should have been freely given. That's not a small thing. That's not something you get over or move past. That's a fucking tragedy. And you're allowed to be angry about it. You're allowed to grieve it. You're allowed to feel the full weight of what it cost you, the peace you didn't get to have, the childhood you didn't get to live, the version of yourself you had to abandon to survive. This is what therapists mean when they talk about holding space for your pain, not fixing it, not reframing it, not rushing to the lesson or the growth or the silver lining, just witnessing it, acknowledging that something precious was taken from you and that loss matters. You might resist this. You might want to skip ahead to the healing part, the empowerment part, the "but I'm stronger because of it" part. And yes, we'll get there, but not yet, because you can't heal what you won't feel, you can't release what you won't acknowledge, and you can't build a new foundation on top of unprocessed grief. So before we talk about change, we have to talk about what you're changing from. We have to name what this pattern has cost you. We have to count the casualties. It cost you your presence. How many moments have you missed because you were in your head, replaying the past or rehearsing the future, analyzing and calculating and preparing instead of being here? It cost you your joy. How many successes have you minimized? How many compliments have you deflected? How many wins have you dismissed because accepting them felt too vulnerable, too risky, too likely to set you up for disappointment? It cost you your boundaries. How many times have you said yes when you meant no? How many times have you overextended yourself, sacrificed your needs, swallowed your preferences because someone else's comfort felt more important than your own? It cost you your rest. How many nights have you lain awake, mind racing, body exhausted but wired, unable to let go because letting go feels like giving up, like losing control, like inviting disaster? It cost you intimacy. How many relationships have stayed surface level because letting someone see your struggle, your doubt, your humanness felt too dangerous? How many times have you pushed people away the moment they got too close because closeness meant they might see you weren't enough? And maybe the hardest one, it cost you, the version of you that exists beneath the performance, the one with needs and wants and preferences, the one who's allowed to be messy and uncertain and still worthy of love. You buried that person so deep, you might not even know who they are anymore. This is what developmental trauma does. It doesn't always look like the obvious kind, the kind with clear villains and dramatic stories. Sometimes it's quiet, invisible. The kind where everything looked fine from the outside, but inside, you were slowly learning that you had to be more than yourself to be loved. What your body has been trying to tell you. Let's talk about what this pattern does to your nervous system. When you're in a chronic state of not enough, your body lives in what's called sympathetic activation. That's the part of your nervous system responsible for the fight or flight response. Except you're not running from a tiger, you're running from a feeling, the feeling of inadequacy, of unworthiness, of potential rejection. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a physical threat and an emotional one. So when you feel that spike of anxiety before a presentation, or that drop in your stomach when someone seems disappointed, or that rush of panic when you make a mistake, your body responds the same way it would to actual danger. Heart rate increases, cortisol floods your system, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, goes offline, and the survival brain takes over. This is why you can know intellectually that you're doing fine and still feel like you're failing. Because the feeling isn't coming from your thinking brain. It's coming from the part of your brain that's still that child, still trying to figure out how to be safe, still running the old program. If I'm not perfect, I'm in danger. Over time, living in this state becomes your baseline. Psychologists call it chronic stress arousal or hypervigilance. You stop noticing it because it's always there. The tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your jaw, the shallow breathing, the constant low-level anxiety humming in the background of everything. Your body is trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you this isn't sustainable, this isn't safe, This isn't how you're supposed to live. But you've learned to override those signals. You've learned to push through exhaustion, to ignore pain, to keep going even when everything in you is screaming for rest. Because rest, to your nervous system, feels like vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like death. Here's what you need to understand. This isn't a character flaw. This is adaptation. Your nervous system developed this way because at some point it had to. Hypervigilance kept you safe. Perfectionism kept you loved. Achievement kept you valued. These patterns served you. They got you through. But you're not in that environment anymore. You're not that child anymore. And what once protected you is now destroying you. The pattern that saved your life is now preventing you from living it. Here's something you probably haven't let yourself acknowledge. Part of you has always known. Part of you has always known this wasn't normal, that other people don't lie awake replaying conversations, that other people can make mistakes without spiraling, that other people can rest without guilt, receive compliments without deflecting, exist without constantly performing. Part of you has always known you were running from something, that the achievement, the productivity, the relentless self-improvement, it wasn't really about the goals. It was about the feeling underneath, the feeling you'd do anything not to feel. That part of you, let's call it your wise self, your intuition, your soul, it's been trying to get your attention for years, through burnout, through anxiety, through the relationships that didn't work, through the success that felt empty, through every moment you achieved something impressive and felt nothing. Your body has been speaking to you in symptoms. Your life has been speaking to you in patterns. And you've been so busy trying to fix yourself, improve yourself, optimize yourself, that you haven't stopped to listen. What if nothing about you needs to be fixed? What if the only thing that needs to change is your relationship with yourself? What if the problem isn't that you're not enough, it's that you were taught to believe you'd? So where do you go from here? Not to fix yourself, not to add healing to your list of things you need to accomplish, not to turn self-compassion into another performance, another metric by which you measure your worth. The first step isn't action, it's witnessing. It's learning to see the pattern without immediately trying to change it, to notice the moment you apologize for something that isn't your fault, to catch yourself minimizing a success or catastrophizing a mistake, to feel the anxiety spike when someone seems displeased and recognize, oh, there it is, the old program running. This is what mindfulness actually means, not some blissed-out state of Zen, but the simple, radical act of noticing what's happening inside you without judgment, without making it mean something about your worth. You're not trying to stop the pattern yet, you're just learning to see it, to say, this is the part of me that learned I had to be perfect to be safe. To recognize that the voice in your head saying you're not doing enough isn't truth, it's history. This might feel frustratingly slow. You might want a faster solution, a technique, a 5-step plan to finally feel okay. But here's the thing, you've been moving fast your whole life, running, achieving, producing, and it hasn't worked. What if the answer isn't more effort? What if the answer is actually stopping? What if healing isn't something you do, but something you allow? There's a concept in therapy called reparenting. It's the idea that you can give yourself now what you didn't get then. You can learn to be the adult for the child inside you who's still scared, still trying, still believing their worth is conditional. And that starts with one simple question: what do I need right now? Not what should I be doing, not what would be productive, not what would make me a better person, but what do I actually need? Maybe it's rest. Maybe it's permission to stop trying so hard. Maybe it's someone to witness your exhaustion without trying to fix it. Maybe it's the space to be imperfect, to struggle, to not have the answers, and still be worthy of care. When was the last time you asked yourself that question? When was the last time you listened to the answer? The permission you've been waiting for. Here's what no one tells you. You're waiting for permission you've already been given. You're waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to rest, to say no, to be less than extraordinary, to take up space without earning it, to need things, to struggle, to be human. But you're an adult now, No one's coming to give you that permission. No external authority is going to walk into your life and say, "You can stop now, you've done enough, you're free." The only person who can give you that permission is you. And I know that feels impossible, because the part of you that would grant that permission, the wise, compassionate, nurturing part, has been overridden by the part that learned love was conditional. The part that still believes if you stop trying, something terrible will happen. So let me say it first, and maybe you can start to believe it. You get to rest now, you get to be imperfect now, you get to take up space without justifying it, you get to say no without explaining yourself, you get to need things without shame, you get to struggle without it meaning you're failing, you get to exist without performing. You get to be enough, exactly as you are. Not someday when you've achieved more or healed more or become more. Right now, as you are, tired, uncertain, imperfect human. This isn't a reward for good behavior. This isn't something you have to earn. This is your birthright. It was always yours. You just forgot. And unlearning that forgetting, that's the work. Not accomplishing more, not becoming more, but coming home to yourself, to the part of you that doesn't need to try, that's allowed to just be. What shadow work really means. There's a term that gets thrown around a lot in healing spaces, shadow work, and it often gets misunderstood as some kind of deep, dark excavation of your worst impulses. But here's what it actually means. Your shadow is the part of yourself you had to hide to be acceptable. For you, that might be your needs, your limits, your anger, your selfishness, and I use that word intentionally because you've been taught that wanting things for yourself is bad, that prioritizing your well-being is wrong, that having boundaries is cruel. So you pushed those parts down, you exiled them, you became the opposite, selfless, giving, accommodating, and you told yourself that was virtue, that was goodness, that was who you were. But those disowned parts don't go away. They live in your body as tension. They show up as resentment when you give too much. They emerge as self-sabotage when you get close to success. They whisper as that voice in the middle of the night, "I can't keep doing this." Shadow work is inviting those parts back, not to act on every impulse, but to include them in your sense of self. To say, "I am someone who needs rest. I am someone who has limits. I am someone who wants things, and that doesn't make me bad. It makes me human." This is where real change happens, not in overriding your needs again, but in honoring them. Not in pushing through exhaustion again, but in listening to it. Your body has been trying to protect you this whole time. The exhaustion is protection. It's your system saying we can't keep going at this pace. The anxiety is protection. It's trying to keep you safe the only way it knows how. The emptiness is protection. It's your soul refusing to participate in a life that isn't yours. What if you stopped fighting these signals and started listening to them? The practice of enoughness. So what does this look like in practice? How do you actually start to change a pattern that's been running your whole life? It starts small, uncomfortably small, so small your brain will try to convince you it doesn't matter. It's noticing when you're about to apologize for something that isn't your fault and stopping, just stopping, letting the moment pass without the reflex. It's receiving a compliment, and instead of deflecting or minimizing or explaining it away, just saying thank you, even if it feels foreign in your mouth, even if every cell in your body wants to qualify it. It's choosing not to check your email after work hours, not because you're being lazy, but because you're practicing the radical act of boundaries, of believing your time matters even when you're not producing. It's letting a text go unanswered for a few hours, not because you're playing games, but because you're learning that your worth doesn't depend on your responsiveness, that people can wait, that your immediate availability isn't what makes you valuable. It's sitting with the discomfort of rest, of doing nothing, of letting your mind wander and your body relax, and the world keeps spinning without your constant effort to hold it together. These feel like nothing. Your brain will tell you they're insignificant, but here's what's actually happening. You're retraining your nervous system. You're teaching it, through repeated experience, that safety doesn't require perfection, that rest isn't dangerous, that you can be less than extraordinary and the world doesn't end. You're building evidence against the old story. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Your nervous system will protest. That anxiety will spike. That voice will get louder. What are you doing? This isn't safe. You need to try harder. That's not truth. That's the old program running. That's the part of you that learned to survive by striving, and it's scared, because to that part, stopping feels like dying. So you don't fight it, you don't shame it, you just acknowledge it. I know you're scared, I know you think we need to keep going, but I'm going to try something different now, and I need you to trust me. Before we go any further, I need you to understand something. This pattern you've been carrying, it's not a flaw, it's not weakness, it's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's evidence of your intelligence. Think about what you did as a child. You entered an environment where love felt conditional, where safety required performance, where belonging meant becoming something other than yourself. And instead of breaking, you adapted. You learned. You figured out the rules of the game and you played it brilliantly. You survived. That takes extraordinary intelligence. That takes resilience most people can't even fathom. You took an impossible situation, being a child who needed unconditional love, but received conditional acceptance, and you found a way through. You became what you needed to become. You developed patterns that kept you safe, kept you connected, kept you alive. The problem isn't that you did this. The problem is that you're still doing it, in an environment that no longer requires it, with people who aren't your parents, in a life where your survival doesn't actually depend on being perfect. The pattern that was adaptive then is maladaptive now. But that doesn't make it shameful. It makes it outdated, like a smoke alarm that keeps going off when there's no fire. The alarm isn't broken, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's just responding to old information. Your nervous system is responding to old information, to threats that aren't present anymore, to conditions that no longer apply. And the first step in updating that system isn't forcing it to change. It's thanking it for what it did, for how hard it worked, for the ways it kept you safe when you had no other options. You're not trying to kill this part of yourself. You're trying to let it know we are safe now, we can rest now, we don't have to run anymore. I'm not going to lie to you, this is hard work, harder than achieving, harder than perfecting, harder than any goal you've ever chased. Because achievement has a roadmap, you can measure it, you can track progress, you can check boxes and cross finish lines and know you're getting somewhere. But healing is non-linear. It's messy. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's feeling like you've made progress and then having a day where the old pattern runs so hard you forget everything you've learned. There will be moments where you catch yourself slipping back into the old ways, where you overwork, overextend, over-explain, over-apologize, where you perform instead of being present, where you say yes when you mean no. And your first instinct will be to shame yourself for it, to turn your healing into another thing you're failing at, to add being self-compassionate to your list of tasks, and then beat yourself up when you can't do it perfectly. But here's what I need you to hear. That reaction, that shame, that self-criticism, that feeling of failure, asterisk, that's the pattern too. That's the old program running, the one that says you have to do everything right, even healing. And when you notice that, when you catch yourself making healing into another performance, that's not failure, that's awareness, that's growth, that's you seeing the pattern clearly enough to name it. You don't shame yourself for it, you just notice it. Oh, there I go again, trying to be perfect at imperfection. And maybe you laugh, maybe you cry, maybe you just sit with the absurdity of it all. This is what self-compassion actually looks like. Not some soft, gentle voice telling you everything is okay, but the willingness to see yourself clearly, pattern and all, and say, yeah, this is hard, I'm doing my best, and my best doesn't have to be perfect. There's a version of you that exists beneath all of this, beneath the striving and the performing and the endless calculation of worth. A version that's been there all along, waiting. This version doesn't need to achieve anything to feel okay, doesn't need to fix anything or improve anything. or become anything other than what it already is. This version is soft where you've been hard, playful where you've been serious, present where you've been planning. This version knows how to rest, how to receive, how to let life be easy sometimes, how to take up space without apologizing, how to need things without shame. This version has been with you in every moment you've felt that flash of longing, for simplicity, for ease, for the ability to just be without the constant pressure to become. It's been there in every moment of exhaustion, whispering, "There's another way." You haven't lost this part of yourself, you've just buried it, forgotten it, convinced yourself it wasn't practical, wasn't safe, wasn't allowed. But it's still there, waiting for you to remember. And returning to it doesn't mean becoming lazy or irresponsible or mediocre. It doesn't mean giving up on your goals or abandoning your standards or letting everyone down. It means building a life from the inside out instead of the outside in. It means making choices based on what feels true rather than what looks good. It means measuring your worth by your humanity rather than your productivity. It means coming home to yourself. Here's the thing about awareness. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You might try to go back to the old way, to convince yourself it wasn't that bad, that you're being dramatic, that you should just be grateful and stop complaining and keep going like you always have. But it won't work the same way anymore, because now you know what it's costing you, you know where it came from, you know it's not actually you, it's an adaptation, a survival strategy that outlived its usefulness. And knowing that, it changes everything. You have a choice now. Maybe for the first time in your life, you have a real choice. You can keep running, keep achieving, keep chasing the feeling that never comes. Keep believing that one more accomplishment, one more validation, one more perfect performance will finally make you feel enough. Or you can stop, you can turn around, you can face the thing you've been running from, the feeling of not being enough, and discover that it's not actually true, that it never was, that it was just a story you learned, a pattern you absorbed, a survival strategy you internalized. And here's what happens when you stop running, the thing you were so afraid of, being ordinary, being imperfect, being human asterisk. It's not actually terrifying, it's relief, it's freedom, it's the exhale you've been holding for decades. You don't have to be extraordinary to be worthy. You don't have to be useful to be loved. You don't have to be perfect to belong. You already belong, you always have, you just forgot. This isn't the end of the story, it's not even the middle. It's the moment before the beginning. The moment where you're standing at a crossroads, seeing clearly for maybe the first time what's been driving you and what it's cost. The path forward isn't easy. It's not a straight line. There's no 5-step plan, no guaranteed timeline, no checklist you can complete to officially declare yourself healed. But here's what I can promise you, it's worth it. Every moment of discomfort as you learn to rest, every spike of anxiety as you practice boundaries, every wave of grief as you mourn what you lost, every moment of awkwardness as you learn to just be instead of constantly becoming. It's all worth it. Because on the other side of this pattern is a life that's actually yours, not the one you built to impress others, not the one designed to keep you safe, but the one that feels true, the one where you can breathe, the one where you're not performing for love because you know bone deep that you're already worthy of it. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect at healing. You don't have to do this journey flawlessly. You just have to take the next small step, and then the next, and then the next. Rest when you need to rest. Ask for help when you need help. Say no when you need to say no. Let yourself be imperfect. Let yourself be human. You are not a project to be optimized. You are not a problem to be solved. You are not a work in progress that will someday, if you try hard enough, become acceptable. You are already acceptable. You are already enough. You are already worthy. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are. Human, imperfect, here. And that has always been enough. This is your life, and you get to live it now, not earn it, not prove you deserve it, but live it. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is, are you willing to try?